Welcome to the Breakthrough to Your Best Success online event. Join your host, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, and the contributors from the Success Guidebook and other special guests to visualize, actualize, and amplify you and your best success. This conference will help you redefine success, transform your goals, embrace change, design and realize your best life, and much more.
And welcome back to the Breakthrough to Your Best Success Conference. I'm Elizabeth, here with the one and only Linda Pritchett. She's a contributor in the book. Okay, there's applause. No, I'm just kidding. How are you?
Yeah. Good. How are you?
Good. You are a contributor to Chapter 4 of the Success Guidebook. Grateful. I have a story here before we ask you all the questions we've been asking everybody else. So I'm not sure I would have this book without you, and here's why. It's sort of like a series of events. And I think you and I should talk about that for everybody to understand that success isn't just, oh yeah, here we go. We've had a bunch of things, and they kind of started back with Cam. And so my son Cam went in the transfer portal, moved to North Carolina, moved in with you and your sons, pitched in the Old North State League, got picked up by Georgetown, and we've just been friends since. And so both Cam's story, your story, all of it all kind of weaves together for this story about how like success isn't just a straight shot upward and everything's hunky-dory the whole time. It's all over the place, right?
Right. I know. It's like actually your husband Peter brought Cam down. You weren't here the first time. So after about 15 minutes, he said, "Oh my gosh, you and my wife are going to be such good friends." And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Oh yeah, she's awesome. You're awesome." I'm like, "Well, how awesome could she be?" And then, I said, "Well, what makes her awesome?" So he started telling me. And still I'm very reluctant because he's biased, Then I met you and I'm like, oh yeah, I get it now.
Yeah.
So, success, sometimes it's a long and winding road, but I really believe that, like you have in the book, if you can see it, you can achieve it, but then you have to take action. A lot of people just think that you can just dream about it and put it out there into the universe and it's going to happen. No, it doesn't. Your intention, of course, has to be clear, but it's the action steps. And that's what I love about your books. Yeah. And this one in particular is that, that anybody can do it. Anybody. It's a blueprint.
We're getting some cool feedback like that too. Like, I'm going to use this to start a business. I've had like 3 people say I'm going to use this to start a business. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then we have people using it to make life changes, to maneuver to where they kind of want to be and so forth. And I want to talk to you about that because you're one of the stories in the book that is about making life changes. And a little bit of struggle in there and persevering through some things. Do you want to talk about your story and why you wrote it in the book?
Yeah, I will. It was really hard for me to put that story in there because it was kind of embarrassing, kind of, I don't know, just
get it.
I'm a humble person, really. And I just, one of the things about me is that I just do whatever has to be done to get to where I need to go. I don't complain about it. I don't bellyache about it. If I get upset, I do it in private. And so I make everything look easy to everybody around me. Honestly, I've been told that, like, oh, how hard could your life be? I'm thinking, if you only knew
how hard it work.
Oh my
gosh. I see.
So the basis of the story, and people can read it in the book, but it is that, I was married. I married very late in life. I never thought I would really get married or have kids, but then, God has other plans for us all. And I met my husband and I got pregnant, but, we had a baby and we got married first. And, I can't say I loved him so much when I married him, but I grew to love him because he became the father of my child. And then I ended up having another child. And by all intents and purposes, we had a really nice life. I mean, I thought it was really nice. We had a ton of friends. I was very successful in my business. It should have been a red flag that he wasn't really working, but I didn't care because I had my kids so late in life and he was a stay-at-home dad and they were boys. So I thought, oh, that's good. They could be with their dad, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, fast forward, he just wasn't a happy person. So I just kept thinking, well, maybe if this happened, he would be happy. And if that happened, it would be happy. But, you know, we all know happiness is, my mom always used to say, everywhere you go, there you are, you know.
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
can change your environment, but you're taking yourself with it. And if you're not happy, you're not going to be happy A, B, or C place, you know. So I got this fateful call one day when my kids were, and one was in middle school, one was in elementary school. It was someone I knew. His wife used to be my nanny, and he was, you know, hyperventilating and crying, and basically told me that my husband and his wife had been messing around. So I get a phone call from my husband, said, so-and-so is going to call you and don't listen to what he's saying. And I said, I already know that what he's saying is true. So you need to get home right now. Because at some point I made him go back to work after the kids were in school. I'm like, there's nothing to stay home for. You know, you need to go. So he was a teacher. So he went back to teach. He came home, and I remember one time asking him, you know, how many were there? And I mean, let's just say there were too many to count. But me being who I am, I just thought to myself, after everything came out, Elizabeth, that the first 14 years of our marriage were built on a lie because of a lot of things that had happened to him that he never shared. And because he was, to me, I'm a connector. And for 14 years, I could not connect with this person, and I couldn't understand why. But it was because he was unable to connect to people because he didn't want them to know the truth about a lot of things. So he just acted out whatever his trauma was. And I thought to myself, for 14 years, it was built on a lie. Now we have the truth. A good, healthy relationship can be built on the truth. And so I thought, I have a family, I have this life, all these friends, a great career. I do not want to just throw that all away if we can build it back with the truth. Well, you know, the cliche, I'm the cliche queen, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
So you have to have two willing parties to do the work. And, you know, again, another cliche, and I tell my kids this all the time, there's two kinds of people. There's fight or flight, right? You're either a fighter or you're a flighter. I was a fighter. I was ready to go in the ring, get the counseling, do the work, get dirty, you know, get ugly, cry, you know, hurt. He's a flighter. He just rather go find somebody else. And he did right away.
Question for you. Now, in hindsight, you're about to be remarried.
Yes. After 12 years of being single.
Yeah. But let me go back. Are you glad that you didn't go in the ring and fight?
Oh gosh, my gosh, it was a fantasy of mine that I could fix it. Yes, I'm glad. Oh my gosh. I was glad the day he pulled out of the driveway. It was like that commercial with that cloud that's raining over somebody's head. And that's what he was, just a dark cloud in my life because he was so depressive and his energy wasn't as, you know, like mine. And I don't want to throw him under the bus.
I'm about to get there too. I'm like, that's not the,
oh yeah, that's not the thing. But people won't know the brevity of it if I don't tell that part of it. Yeah. So my heart was broken. My heart was broken mostly for my sons because I knew I was going to be okay, but I wasn't sure how they were going to handle this. So I took the high road. All my friends, I lost friends over taking the high road. They thought I should have come at him with guns blazing and just, you know, sued him and gotten time.
That doesn't help the family at all. Yeah.
It would have hurt it. So, I took the high road. But in the book, I tell there was this one day, and it was just a few weeks after we split up. He wasn't paying me child support because he couldn't afford to pay rent and live and pay me child support. Eventually, he did pay me a little bit, but it was just a novel, you know, just whatever, a token. But I went, and my son said, I need lunch money. And I said, okay, I'll give you lunch money. And, it's when you transfer it from your account into their account online. So I said, I better check my account before I do that, because I was living hand to mouth. I checked it, and it said negative $217. And we had owed a couple $100 to the Department of Revenue statewide. I gave him the money to pay, but he never paid it. So I didn't know that, and they took it out of my checking account. I was like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, I freaked out. I was like, what am I going to do? I have negative 200. Tried to get an advance on my paycheck. I couldn't do that. I had to wait 3 more days, and I finally got my paycheck. And I just got through it. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
There was a couple of things that happened. But that night, I cried so hard. I packed my kids' lunch, got them to school, and then I just went into preservation mode. And I said, I have got to change my life. So I made a goal that I would get out of debt, because he left me with a lot of debt. And I decided to make a goal of having $100,000 in the bank in 5 years and be out of debt, completely out of debt, except for my house. And in 4.5 years, I did it. I'll never forget it. When I looked at my account, it said 100,000, 101,300 and something. I still have it on my phone. I screenshotted it, and I sent it to my kids, who were now one was 18 and one was 14. And I said, listen, this is what you can do when you put your mind to it. I had negative $217 in my account 3 weeks after your dad left us. And look what I have now. And they were, oh my gosh, they took me out for dinner. I mean, they paid for it with their little money they had in their account. It was really like a celebration, because I wanted them to participate in that moment. And because truthfully, they were my driving force. I did it really not just for me, but for them. So I never had to live in the energy space of worry, right? So I did it.
Well, I'm grateful that you shared that, because I think that story will resonate with a lot of people. I've been divorced myself. Our 2 older kids are from my previous marriage, so I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
it's a good read, what you've written here, and I'm grateful that you went all vulnerable on it and shared it with us, because I think it's important for people, men and women alike, because it happens in both situations.
Oh, it does. It really, it's about your mindset, though. It truly is.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to go back and ask you the questions. We've been asking all the contributors like 5 questions or so.
Mhm.
And I'm going to start with the Success Guidebook is, it examines success in a new and kind of innovative way. We're hoping to redefine it for people and let them help redefine it for themselves as well. How has your perspective and pursuit of success changed over the years?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, like you mentioned before, I'm getting married, right? And so the kind of person I thought I wanted to be with turns out to not be the kind of person that I want in my life. And a part of it is just my age. I'm 63 years old, and things have changed over the years. And so what I want now is peace and quiet and calm and love and respect and honor and treasure, and all that, right? Instead of a good provider, somebody who's ambitious, all that stuff. Yeah. So success for me has changed in the sense that money is a measure that a lot of people use to measure success. But I know I work with older adults, and some of them are very wealthy. And they taught me that they would trade every single penny they have for good health. So the way that I define success now is positive, good energy, healthy relationships. Of course, having enough income to pay your bills and do things that you enjoy doing. Surrounding yourself with people that you love and who love you in return for who you are, not wanting you to be different. And really good health. I mean, that is, if you have good health, you are successful in my definition of success.
It's hard to be successful in other areas if you don't have your health sometimes
That
too.
is
So it
exactly right.
kind of all weaves together. I'm going to skip to the last question that I usually ask people because I think we just touched on it. Talk about comprehensive success, because that's one of the things at Best Ever You. We get a lot of people who come in for coaching and their areas of life are wildly out of whack, meaning
Yes.
they have pursued success in the almighty dollar so high that their health suffers or
Yes.
a relationship suffered or something. That's usually the scenario. Talk about getting it all in check.
Yeah.
Is it possible? We've had mixed responses on this. It's
Yeah.
tough.
So that's a really good. So I used to read a lot about this other guy that did this stuff, and he used to say this: if you have balance like this, a scale, when it's perfectly balanced, what is it doing? It's not moving. It's perfectly balanced like that. It doesn't move, right? So what you really want is harmony, not so much balance. And so I believe that when you ask, can you have your cake and eat it too? Can a woman have it all, or a man, whatever? I mean, the answer is yes, if you do it the right way. But the truth is, some things will suffer while you're pursuing other things. So if having, like when I was on a mission to get $100,000 in my bank, I'm sure my friendship suffered a little bit, but I was cognizant of it enough that I kept them going enough. They probably didn't deepen at the time. They probably just stayed where they were. But after I got that, I noticed that I didn't have a romantic relationship in my life. I wasn't dating. I mean, there were certain things.
Yeah.
So the answer is comprehensive success to me is a harmonic wellness, so to speak, in your life, where everything is just sort of synergetic and working, and that you recognize when the areas in your life that you're not paying attention to may need more attention, and then looking at it and say, okay, what areas are really good right now that I can spend a little bit more time somewhere else.
That's so well put. Yeah.
But here's the key for me, from my perspective: freedom of your time is really key to being successful in life. If you have in your mind everything that you ever wanted, but you have no time. How many people have you met that have a house at the beach and a house in the mountains and a plane and this and that, but they never use it because all they do is work to make all the money to buy all that stuff, right? And so if you're not enjoying the fruits of your labor, if your relationships are failing or your health is failing, you have to stop and look. Because if you have decent health, it doesn't have to be perfect. My health's not perfect, but it's good. I would love to lose an extra 15 pounds, but my point is, your health, your wealth, your relationships, your soul, your personal growth, all of the areas that you want to touch on in your life, that the key is to become conscious of it. Yeah. And understand that when you're trying to reach one goal, other goals may suffer, other areas of your life, but as long as you don't ignore them for too long, you can play catch up. And it's all about harmony.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that I haven't asked anybody else, and it might be choppy, but we'll get to it. Just fill in my gaps here. But the gist of it is, that feeling when you're like, oh, shit, my marriage is crumbling, and I've got a negative $200 thing over here, and God, I don't want anybody to know about this. Those feelings of like, oh, man. Talk about that moment and those moments and how do we share it? Do we hide it? Do we go in shame? How do we get through those moments these days? Because a lot of us were raised like outside looking in, everything's great. Don't you worry about anything. Woohoo, everything's perfect.
And social media has made that really even harder.
It sure does. And so how do we not get stuck in things that we don't want to be in or do just for appearance's sake?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I've always been the kind of person that didn't really care too much what other people thought because, I'm like, walk a mile in my shoes and then you can complain or you can criticize. But I do understand that a lot of people are putting on the airs that everything's great because they're afraid to admit it. And unfortunately, a lot of people my age, who they end up airing their dirty laundry to is their children, even if they're adult children. I don't think that's the best idea.
No.
So whether you've got to find a confidant, whether it's a friend, and unfortunately, I think when a lot of people's lives are kind of not working and they want to make changes, the first thing they have to do is look at the relationships, the people that they surround themselves with. I used to tell my kids all the time, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So sometimes you have to divorce some of these friends, but there should be a sister or somebody or a brother or somebody that loves you, or a pastor that, or someone in your life, an old teacher, somebody that knows you, that accepts you for who you are. And then you can share it with them. But really, the truth is, Elizabeth, all we have to do is just be honest with ourselves. That's the key, right?
Yep.
So journal. I mean, if you can just go and buy a $1 notebook at the Dollar Tree and journal your feelings and where you feel like you're stuck. And if you were to share some of the things that are going on in your life and people knew, how would that make you feel? And just be super honest.
Yeah.
And
I was writing down as you were talking, it's a moment too where you might be in a situation where you might be like, okay, I'm unsuccessful,
right.
And it's important not to be stuck in that moment because, while I think people will get afraid to make change because we can't predict the future. So they kind of go back and forth between what they know and what they don't know, worried, or, safe, worried, that kind of thing. And people get afraid to make big changes, like get a divorce or do this or do that, because they fear that they're not ever going to be successful again, or it's going to ruin
and we know what we know is more comfortable than what we don't know. So we would rather stay in a really crappy situation because at least we know we can handle it. We're still alive, than make the move and go to the unknown. But one thing that really helped me, and this is the truth, I was really, really ballsy and successful when I was young, in my 20s. And so what I did was I sort of kind of meditated, or just kind of was still that night that I was trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And went back to the energy space of when I had a really big win. And it was like I was 27 years old.
Yeah.
I saw this opportunity. Everybody told me there's no way you're ever going to be able to do that. And I was like, well, if I don't try, it's still a no. So I'm just going to try. And I did it. And to this day, I'm like famous for it in my field for doing it. And, all these years later, but I went back to that. And everybody it might be when you were 17 and you won a gymnastics championship, but now you're 100 pounds overweight and your marriage is in the toilet and your kids are crazy and your job, you hate your boss. It could be all of that.
All of it. Yeah.
But go back to when you won that gymnastics championship, or that horse, whatever, it could be when you were 10 and you won the biggest award at the school, or whatever it is. Go back to when you were feeling good about yourself and channel that energy through your body. I think that would really help me a lot, because I was like, oh my gosh, I got to channel that badass again,
Anchor your power.
Yeah.
So you just have to, and if you don't have those moments, if you're like, oh, I'm listening to you, but I don't have a moment where I'm like feeling like I've got a powerful moment, maybe journal it, write it down, like what you think that would be, and anchor in that. It could be something that you're dreaming of doing or whatever, but yeah, anchoring in your power is a big one. So you have something to draw upon when things are rough and you have to cope.
We're all human. We can do anything we put our mind to, even against all odds, but you have to really want it and take baby steps. I tell, my clients that have lived in their home for 50 years and they're 80 years old and they have to sell their house, but they have so much stuff. They don't know where to start. So they never do anything. I said, look, it's paralysis by analysis. I know, but it's like eating an elephant. You take one bite at a time, do one drawer at a time, one room at a time, one closet at a time. It might take you a year, but you'll get there. And they do it and it helps.
Yep. Okay, so we combined a couple of the questions, but I'm going to ask you about authenticity and integrity. I have a feeling they're pretty important to you. So talk about authenticity, talk about integrity, and how that factors into success and maintaining success, or maintaining and sustaining, or knowing how to maneuver.
Right. So I personally find that true authenticity is lonely. I mean, I find that when you're truly authentic and you try to find other people to be with that are truly authentic, who really know themselves and can live in their truth, yeah, you can count them on one hand. I mean, it's hard. It's really, really hard. But authenticity is really important because you're never going to get to where you want to be if you don't know who you are and what you have to bring to the table to make the changes. And you have to know what your strengths are, because the only way you're going to do is surround yourself with other people. I didn't do all that by myself. I just ended up finding a really good mentor and surrounding myself with people who were smarter than me in that field so I could get as good as they were. But integrity, I just tell my kids all the time, integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's looking, and it's hard, if you're tired and you go buy something and they didn't charge you for one of the things, do you go back in and tell them they didn't charge you, or just go in the car and go away? That's the easy thing to do. They're never going to miss it. But integrity is going back and saying, I'm sorry, hon, you didn't charge me for this, and so you don't have to be that integral maybe, but you do have to do the right thing even when nobody is looking at you. And if you don't have that desire to have integrity, you'll never be authentic. I think when we are absolutely authentic, we have integrity. I think babies are born with integrity and authenticity. They're just socially to not be that way, but I think everybody's born perfect. And then we do this to ourselves, to our society, to our kids, to our friends, all that. So it is really important.
Let me ask, I don't know if you meant this, but I'm going to, it made me start thinking when you were saying, you were talking kind of about how similar and different people are in terms of authenticity and so forth. Is what makes you such a good networker and so personable, that you're able to see things in other people that you can relate to or learn about or whatever. You're a really good networker and you're really personable. Do you have any tips for somebody who's like, it's easy for you. Look at the smile, look at those eyes, and look at how pretty and smiley you are and friendly and all this stuff. But I'm over here and I'm like, okay, I feel introverted or whatever. Do you have any tips for somebody like that? Because being introverted is something that people are starting to talk a lot more about, and how scared they are in social situations and this and that. I can be kind of like that. I can kind of be like this way or that way, depending on what, and maybe we all can, I don't know, but I'm on a quest to learn way more about networking from people who seem like it's really easy for them. Is that easy for you?
Okay. So I'm in love and engaged to a complete introvert who doesn't ever talk. Like, even when people talk to him, he struggles to talk back unless it's a subject that he's really passionate about. But what I found about him is that he's the ultimate observer. So if you are going to be an introvert and not participate in conversations very easily, then you should at least become a very good observer, because being a good observer will hone your intuition, and then you'll be able to make better decisions down the road. However, the only thing I could say is this: an interesting person is an interested person. And the only reason why I am so outgoing is because I am fascinated by everybody and everything. I just am. And so while other people might think it's prying, I think asking people, my goodness, what did it take for you to get here? Or how did you two meet? Or whatever. I think everybody has a story and they love telling it, right? So if you're an introvert, it's going to be hard for you to become as outgoing as someone like me, because I'm a true extrovert.
Yeah.
But I've learned that extroverts they probably know way more than introverts probably know way more than extroverts, because they're just constantly listening and observing because they're not talking all the time. And so you can take all of that knowledge and that wisdom and that the observation skills that you have, and practice by asking people questions about themselves. Really, just be interested in anything, That's the only advice I can get. It's very, very difficult. And it is for him too, for my boyfriend, or my fiance now.
Fiance.
But he struggles with it. And sometimes I take it like that's a reflection on me. Like, people are like, what is she doing with somebody so quiet? And it took me a long time to reconcile the fact that he's just completely different. He processes information. So the way that I get him to be more engaging at gatherings and parties and out with friends is I know what turns them on as far as conversation.
Yeah.
So I bring up conversations that I know he knows a lot about, and then he just comes alive.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing being around you. If you haven't ever met Linda in person, try to get to meet her in person, because you're so fun to hang around with, because you truly do bring out the best in people. When you're around you, you truly are a human being who walks the talk of like interacting with someone and helping them be their best. I love you for that. It's so totally best ever you, kind of thing.
Thanks.
And it's in motion and in action for real. And sometimes life isn't full of everybody being Linda. Some people don't want the best for you. They secretly want the worst for you, or want to see you fail, or want to see you, they're naysayers and things like that. And that's so not you. And it was so cool how I'm going back. I'll cry about it probably. I'm going to try not to, but it was so cool how you helped our kiddo, because he was in such a low spot. The experiences that he had, and he put in the work, but the guidance and the it was just beautiful.
I appreciate that, but I think he got into the right headspace. He got into the right headspace, and we all loved him, and he felt it with us. And then all the other things
works.
Yeah. And then it just, because I truly believe this, Elizabeth, I do, and like I'm trying to teach Tom this, like, because he doesn't have the same he hasn't done as much work as I've done. I mean, I work on myself. I'm telling you, I do. There's a website called The Daily Ohm, and I just love
I've
that.
been featured on that a couple times.
Oh,
yes.
You're so lucky. It would be my dream.
For this one.
Oh, did you? For Percolate. Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, you should do a coaching course. But anyway, that said, I'm constantly a lifelong learner and working on myself.
Great site.
But I tell him all the time, because he wants to start a business on the side. And I said, listen, as long as you can conceive it and you can put down an outline of it, and then your intentions are very clear, no mixed messages to the universe, and you start taking action on it, miraculously, the universe will conspire on your behalf. And we call it coincidences and we call it serendipity, but it's just that your vision is clear, your actions are in line with the vision, which is what your book will help everybody do, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden things start falling in place. But not everything. You will have setbacks, right? But those are the moments that you're going to grow the most. And you have to understand that, when people pray, I always say, don't pray, oh God, make this go away. That's not the right prayer. The prayer is, help me learn the lesson I'm supposed to learn in this, so I can get out of this crap super fast.
Yeah.
I just want to get out of this thing, but I know that there's a lesson for me here. So please help me learn it. Open my mind, open my heart, open my spirit, and let me learn the lesson, because this is awful. I want to get out of this, right?
Yeah.
That's how you pray, in my opinion. You don't just make this go away. That's just resistance.
Yeah.
Lean into it and understand that it's there for you as a gift.
Yep.
Right?
Well, I think the book is filled with examples of just that, of people who have persevered through this or that or another thing, and are showing us all and not leaving us alone in our moments of, I wish this would go away.
Right. Right.
So,
And your community, your best ever you, like if there's people that are listening to this or watching this and like they were the kind of people that you said before, they're surrounded by people that are sort of not their champion and they don't have a lot of money and they're just struggling, but they want to make a change. They have a vision to do something.
Yeah.
That community, I'm sure there's people in that community that could rally around and give them the energy and the support that they would need to be able to move forward.
Yeah, it's funny. My mom, when I started Best Ever You, I got a lot of crap for it, right? You know, just volumes of everybody lobbing in their opinion left and right. Why'd you quit your job? Oh my God,
Right.
what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to write books and do a radio show. Sure you are, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But eventually, as things caught on, my mom would say, that community, it shows up with everything but the kitchen sink. And I shouted out one day, I'm like, somebody give me the kitchen sink. We need it too, you know. So yeah, it is one of those things where you literally could write into any one of our groups or contact me or whatever and say, I need help with blah, blah, blah. And like people just, okay.
That is
It's
really
so
wonderful. I mean, that community that you built would really help people.
Really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
great.
anyway, all right. Well, I love you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in the book. Thank you for being in my life.
Thank you.
And thank you for being in other people's lives. I think people learn a lot from you. And I can't wait to see all the things that you do next. I know you have things in the work.
I do. But in the end, when I retire, I'm going to be a success coach. That's what I want to be. I want to help other people tap into their potential just because they can.
And that's beautiful because I think that's exactly who you are. I think it pinpoints it just exactly who you are. I mean, you can be around you and you're like, okay, I feel a little more successful today.
Aw, thanks.
So, all right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Love you too.